3 digital products that changed everything. The coffee had gone cold again. Another morning balancing the noise of the house and the quiet question she kept avoiding. Can I really build something of my own? She wasn't chasing millions, just freedom. The kind that fits between nap times and school pickups. She'd scroll through her phone during those stolen moments, 15 minutes while the baby napped, 20 minutes after bedtime, watching other mothers talk about digital products. It felt distant, almost like a different world. But something kept pulling her back. Part of her still felt guilty for wanting more, as if ambition had to disappear when motherhood began, as if dreaming about income meant she wasn't grateful for what she had. The guilt sat heavy some mornings, right next to the laundry basket she kept ignoring. But the bills didn't care about guilt. Neither did the quiet ache of wanting to contribute again, not just to the household, but to herself. To remember what it felt like to create something that was wholly hers. She started noticing patterns. 3 types of digital products kept appearing. Not in ads, but in real stories from mothers who'd actually done it. Women who started with nothing but a laptop and a nap-time window. Women who looked tired but hopeful. Women who looked like her. The first product she kept seeing was printables. Simple, beautiful, useful printables. Not the kind that required design school or fancy software, just clean layouts that solved real problems. Planners that actually understood a mother's schedule. Checklists that didn't assume she had 3 free hours. Budget trackers that spoke her language. She thought about the notebook she'd been using for months. The one she'd customized herself because nothing in stores quite worked. The meal planning system she'd created on scrap paper. The routine charts she'd drawn for her kids. Maybe other mothers needed these too. What would you have done in her place? The second product surprised her. Templates. Not just any templates, but the kind that saved hours. Email sequences for small business owners. Social media caption bundles. Resume designs. Presentation layouts. Notion dashboards. Things people needed, but didn't have time to create from scratch. She remembered helping a friend organize her home business inbox last year. 3 hours of work that her friend said was life-changing. That's when something clicked. Time was currency now. People would pay for solutions that gave them their hours back. According to recent market research, the template economy has grown by over 60% in the last 2 years alone, driven largely by solopreneurs and parents working from home. Proof that clarity often beats capital. But the idea didn't come from a business book. It came from the mess on her kitchen table. The systems she'd already built, the shortcuts she'd already found, the solutions she'd been giving away for free. Then came the doubt, the kind that whispers louder than failure. Who was she to sell anything? She wasn't an expert. She didn't have a following. She barely had time to shower most days. Maybe success just wasn't meant for someone like her. She almost gave up, until one message changed everything. A neighbor asked if she could buy one of her hand-drawn routine charts, said she'd pay $20 for a digital version she could print at home. $20 for something that took 30 minutes to create. That single message felt like permission, not from someone else, but from herself. The third product took her longer to understand. Digital guides and mini-courses. Not massive programs requiring months of content creation, just focused solutions. 20-page guides on specific problems, 30-minute video walkthroughs, audio workshops recorded during afternoon quiet time. She'd learned so much navigating motherhood. Baby sleep strategies that actually worked. Meal prep systems for chaotic weeks. Gentle potty training methods. Organizing small spaces. Managing toddler tantrums. Introducing solids. Knowledge that felt ordinary to her, but was gold to mothers 2 steps behind on the same journey. Sometimes growth doesn't look like progress. It looks like staying. Staying present with what you already know. Staying honest about what you've learned the hard way. Staying willing to share it. She smiled, not because it was easy, but because it was finally hers. The execution wasn't glamorous. She worked in fragments, designing printables during morning cartoons, writing guides during preschool hours, recording videos after bedtime, when her voice was raspy, but her mind was finally clear. Her workspace was still her kitchen counter, but it no longer felt like chaos. It felt like possibility. She started with printables because the barrier felt lowest. Downloaded Canva's free version. watched tutorials during lunch, created her first product, a weekly meal planner designed specifically for families with picky eaters. Listed it on Etsy for $4. The first sale came 3 days later, then silence for a week, then 2 sales in 1 day, then nothing again. The inconsistency nearly broke her. She questioned everything, the pricing, the design, her right to even try. But she kept creating. A budget binder, a cleaning schedule that didn't assume you had motivation every day. A morning routine chart that acknowledged chaos as the starting point, not the exception. Each product slightly better than the last, each one more honest about real life. What she didn't expect was the messages. Mothers thanking her, mothers saying, "Finally, someone gets it." Mothers sharing photos of her printables on their refrigerators. That feedback became fuel more powerful than any sale notification. By month 3, she'd added templates to her shop. Canva templates for small businesses, Instagram post bundles, email newsletter layouts, price list designs, things she'd learned to create while building her own brand. Each template priced between $8 and $15. The templates sold faster than printables. Business owners didn't want to learn design. They wanted to look professional quickly. They wanted their hour back. They wanted someone else to make the aesthetic decisions so they could focus on their actual work. She learned something crucial then. People don't just buy products. They buy time, they buy confidence, they buy the feeling of having their life slightly more together. That understanding changed how she created everything afterward. The guide came next, a 25-page PDF titled Digital Products for Beginners, What I Wish Someone Had Told Me. She wrote it in 4 days, partially from notes she'd been keeping, partially from questions people kept asking, partially from her own stumbling journey. She priced it at $19, felt terrified, published it anyway. It sold 43 copies in the first month, 43 people willing to pay for her experience, for her mistakes packaged as lessons, for the shortcut through her own confusion. That month she earned more than $600, working entirely during kid-friendly hours. Part of her still couldn't believe it. The other part was already planning what came next. She started paying attention to what mothers actually asked about, not what she assumed they needed, what they specifically struggled with. Sleep training without crying it out, managing grocery budgets under pressure, creating routines that survived sick days, organizing toys without buying expensive systems. Each question became a potential product, each struggle became a template. Each solution she'd figured out became something worth documenting. Research from home-based business studies shows that digital products led by women, particularly in the parenting and lifestyle niches, consistently outperform expectations because they're built from lived experience rather than market assumptions. Authenticity sells better than polish in spaces where trust matters most. Her 6th month looked different than her first. She had 12 printables, 7 template bundles, and 3 guides. Monthly income ranged between $800 and $1,400, not enough to replace a full salary, but enough to matter, enough to feel proud, enough to keep going. What helped her most wasn't just Canva Pro. It was realizing she didn't need permission to start small. She tested a few tools before finding what truly worked, and honestly, it changed everything. This isn't a promotion, just something that made her path a little lighter. Access to better templates, the ability to resize designs quickly, the brand kit that made consistency effortless, small things that saved hours monthly. But the real shift was internal. She stopped waiting to feel ready, stopped comparing her beginning to someone else's year 3, stopped apologizing for wanting both, motherhood and a business that was hers. She learned to create in seasons. Some weeks she launched new products. Other weeks she just maintained what existed. Some months brought growth, others brought survival. She stopped judging the slower stretches as failure and started seeing them as part of a longer rhythm. The setbacks still came, weeks with no sales, customers asking for refunds, comparison scrolling that left her feeling behind, technical problems that ate entire naptime windows. Days she questioned whether any of it mattered. Then came the doubt, the kind that whispers louder than failure. Maybe she'd just gotten lucky. Maybe the market was saturated now. Maybe she should quit before she embarrassed herself further. But she'd learned something about quitting by then. It wasn't the absence of doubt that kept her going. It was the presence of small evidence. The messages saved in a folder on her phone, the sales that kept happening even during slow weeks, the fact that mothers kept finding her work helpful even when she felt like a fraud. Sometimes growth doesn't look like progress. It looks like staying. Staying when the metrics dip. Staying when motivation vanishes. Staying because you've already proven to yourself that you can. She smiled, not because it was easy, but because it was finally hers. By month 9, something unexpected happened. Other mothers started asking how she'd done it, not just what she sold, but how she started, how she found time, how she handled self-doubt, how she priced things, how she managed tech overwhelm. She created a guide about creating guides. Meta, maybe, but honest. It sold better than anything else she'd made because it wasn't just information, it was permission. Permission to start imperfectly, permission to learn publicly, permission to build something small that might become something bigger. Her workspace was still her kitchen counter, but it no longer felt like chaos. It felt like possibility. The 3 products that changed everything weren't revolutionary. They weren't unique. Thousands of mothers sell printables, templates, and guides. But hers carried something specific, her voice, her experience, her particular understanding of the problems she'd lived through. That specificity mattered more than she'd expected. General products got lost. Specific products found their people. The meal planner for picky eaters sold better than the generic meal planner. The budget tracker for single-income families outsold the standard version. The guide for mothers starting digital products beat the guide for general entrepreneurs. She learned that niche wasn't limitation, it was location. It was saying, "This is for you," clearly enough that the right people heard it. And the right people always showed up. What would you have done in her place? Year 1 ended quietly. No viral moment, no massive launch. Just consistent small wins that added up to something real. Total income just over $11,000, created entirely in fragments, between chaos during stolen hours. But the numbers didn't capture what really changed. She felt different, moved through her days differently, still exhausted, still overwhelmed sometimes, still drowning in laundry. But underneath it all, something solid. Something she'd built, something that proved she could. When she poured her coffee the next morning, it was still hot. Because this time she wasn't rushing, she was building. She still got messages from mothers just starting, still remembered how impossible it all felt at the beginning, still wanted to reach through the screen and tell them what she wished someone had told her. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a first product. You don't need to know everything. You need to know one thing worth teaching. You don't need unlimited time. You need to stop waiting for unlimited time. The 3 products that mothers are selling, printables, templates, guides, they're not magic. They're just packaged solutions to real problems, created by people who've already solved them, shared with people still figuring them out. Your version will look different than hers. Different products, different pace, different struggles, and different victories. But the core pattern stays the same. Start with what you know, create what you needed 6 months ago, share it with people who need it now. Tell us what part of this story resonated with you most and where you're watching from. Your journey might just inspire the next one. Tell us which country or city you're watching from. See you in the next video. Bye.